Good place.
Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
On the eve of celebrations to mark the 62nd anniversary of independence, Jamaicans are collectively feeling a bit downbeat as it's not quite gone to script at the Olympics in Paris, the games of the 33rd Olympia. There are only 3 medals in the bag already and no gold. And Jamaicans are wondering if their hopes of a 13, even 15 medal haul will come through, given that they are so far behind the 8 ball. We'll discuss the performances of our Olympians in Paris today on the show, along with speak about the Rebuild Jamaica initiative as the Holness administration seeks to help those worst affected by burial to get lives and livelihoods back together. Yeah, it's that kind of program on this Monday. Let's start the show. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM TV. I'm your personal journalist, George Davis. Now, I spent a lot of time in the build-up to the Paris Olympic Games trying to help people to manage their expectations. I was saying to them, look, medals do not live at people's houses. In plain Jamaican saying, medal no live on nobody yard. Do not go into a championship counting medals because you're setting yourself up for massive disappointment. The Jamaican athletes aren't the only ones competing. People are also praying to the same God the Jamaicans are praying to. It may not work out in the way that we would desire, and so you have to manage your own expectations. When you start counting medals before competition, you are setting yourself up to be very upset and angry if it doesn't go to plan, and you're setting yourself up to turn on the athletes who put in the blood, sweat and tears to make the Paris standards and to compete. And even when they win a medal of a color that you don't think they ought to have come with because it's all about gold, you end up cursing the athletes, which of course is very, very poor form indeed. And it's as if I was right, because people are having a collective moan and groan about what has happened in Paris so far, as the medal count is nowhere near what they would have expected at this stage of competition. And with no gold in the loot, many people are wondering if these are going to be the worst Paris Olympics of all time. I still say that there have been some tremendous achievements, tremendous accomplishments, 3 medals on the board, the possibility for a few more. Let's be happy for what the athletes are able to do, and let's accept what we get. It's not a popular sentiment, but it's a sentiment that you must take on board if you are not to have heart failure by the time these Paris Olympic Games are done and dusted. My first guest this evening, we're going to deal with 2 things in the 2 main segments that we have in the show today, is Michael Dyke. He's the head coach of the Edwin Allen High School girls track and field team, and he knows a thing or 10 about winning. He's only won girls championships 10 times with Edwin Allen, and even he knows that while he and his staff sit and plan meticulously each year for champs, they don't count medals like that because they know that other people are planning and preparing to come and contest, fight tooth and nail for honors at the annual championships. But he puts in the preparation and the results will take care of themselves. Michael Dyke, welcome to Lead Story this evening.
Good evening.
Did I say anything that you disapprove of in my opening?
Not at all.
There you go. Michael, let's start with the young woman who came through your hands and developed into an athlete with world-class potential, and we're seeing that now. Tia Clayton, your impression of how she acquitted herself in the 100 meters, especially, of course, with a place in the final?
Well, I think Tia would have done exceptionally well due to the fact that I think this would have been her biggest individual competition, because she would have gone to the World Junior before competing in relays. But for having an individual spot, I think our national trials would have been, probably our biggest event leading up to the Olympics. So gone there and make it all the way to the final, I think that was a remarkable, performance on her part.
As you managed both herself and her twin, Tina, did you think at any point that Tia would have gotten to this disappoint an Olympic finalist before Tina would?
Well, to be honest, Tia was I would say the better sprinter when they started out from class 4. Because I don't know if Tia would have won bronze at class 4 in the 100, and she won gold in her first year in class 3 in the 100 as well. You know, Tina was more of a longer sprinter, like the 200. So I knew Tia had, you know, immense potential. But she had developed, later down in class 3 into class 2, she had developed an issue with her back, which we had to manage carefully throughout her high school period. And, you know, we didn't try to push her in any way. But I knew once she gets that corrected, then she would have been, you know, on the top of her game and challenge anybody in the world.
And based on this performance in Paris, you think that with normal improvement, and if she avoids the serious injuries that can derail careers, that in very short order, she will establish herself as one of the premier sprinters in the world?
As a matter of fact, based on her age, I am certain once there is no unforeseen injuries or anything, the next Olympics, you know, Tia will be at the top of the podium. I can tell you that because based on what she would have done this season, at this tender age, I know that, you know, under the guidance of Coach Francis and, you know, the regular support from her sister and parents and everybody, she will definitely be one for the future.
Very well, sir. That's on record. We'll play that back when it happens and say Michael Dyke was a prophet because he's an informed man about these things. Michael, overall, though, how would you describe the Olympics from Jamaica's perspective in terms of the successes, the mishaps, and the disappointments?
Well, you know, I think as they would not normally put it, you know, we brought bad.
Absolutely right.
So we have always gone to these global meets expecting to be winning all the gold medals and, you know, and look how many countries we have in the world. Look at our size of the country and the population. We should really not have been in the rank of the USA and Great Britain and those countries. So regardless of what happened, I think we would have done extremely well. You know, but when you're changing the guard, you know, you're losing the Elaine, the Shirley, the Sharika. You know, things like these will happen, but we must be grateful of what we have gotten so far. And, you know, don't be ungrateful or probably cursing and finding all kind of excuses. Those things will happen. This is sport. As you rightly say, you don't count your medals before the meet starts. You know, you take it day by day.
In the same way that the men's sprinting had to transition in the post-Bolt period, and it appears as if the transition is complete for all intents and purposes. You're saying that on the women's side, a transition is happening?
Definitely. You know, despite we had, you know, persons like Sharika would have suffered, you know, an injury which would have affected her and the team, because I know once a fit Sharika would have, the game would have been different. But you know, that's how it goes especially in track and field. And with the youngsters coming on board, you know, we have to give them some time. You know, so as I said, another year or two, we are going to see the fruit of our labor coming from the junior.
By the time of the next World Championships, you're predicting?
Definitely.
Yes. Not to take anything away from her, and I know you wouldn't do that because you love the youngsters so much as a coach. Julian Alfred's gold medal was an outstanding run. She destroyed the field by sprinting standards. What she won by was a huge margin. But had there been a fit Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce, a fit Shericka Jackson, would St. Lucia be toasting their first Olympic champion?
From where I'm sitting, it's hard to say. And, you know, I must say kudos to Julian, because leading up to the Olympics, she was one of my favorites, to be honest with you, because I watched her right through her collegiate career and the start of this season. And I was saying to somebody that she's going to be very dangerous at the Olympics. You know, so I don't want to stick my neck out and say what would have happened, but she would have been hard to beat, you know, regardless of what it is.
Very happy you said that, because we don't want people to get the impression that we're trying to take away. But the fact is, Shelley and Sherika were missing. And when I spoke moments after her triumph, Michael, with the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Philip J. Peer, he himself admitted that when he saw Shelley and Fraser-Pryce not report for the semi-final, he said, yes, this was a chance for Julian to do the big thing, especially with Sherika absent. So it's not as if it's something that we alone are thinking about. Even her own Prime Minister in her own country felt that those two Jamaicans would have been a huge obstacle. They weren't there, and she sprinted into history. She deserves all the credit. She is a true champion. Let me ask you this, Michael. In the women's 200 meters, you know your track and field history very well. Between 1980 and the start of these Paris Games, Jamaica has won at least one medal in the women's 200 meters for every Olympics in between. We won in 1980 in Moscow, 84, 88, 92, right forward. Now, we do not even have a woman at the starting line. What is that saying to you?
You know, it is unfortunate. But when you'd have lost people like Elaine Thompson era and Sherika Jackson, the writing would have been on the wall that, you know, for the 200 it would have been very difficult for us to win a medal, especially in the 200. You know, our best bet was in the 100 at this time. You know, and without a fit Sherika Jackson and Elaine Thompson, you know, but that's one of those things, and we just have to, you know, accept what we get through this Olympics and wheel and come again.
Yeah. That men's 100 meters was ultra competitive. The slowest time in the race was 9.91 seconds. Unbelievable, the quality of sprinting. There were men who did 9.9 low in the semis, and then they had to watch the final on TV because there was no lane for them. It was that competitive. In the end, Lyles, 5,000th of a second in front of the newcomer Kishane Thompson. From the run of the race, when the race ran in actual time and they dipped at the line, was there a point where you thought the Jamaican had gotten it?
You know, I looked at the replay over and over, and I saw the results. I looked through the computer results, and, you know, that was when I was really convinced. But I must really commend both gentlemen. Kishane first, for my liking, very inexperienced at this level. And for him to, you know, step up in that sort of crowd and that sort of atmosphere and challenge Noah to that point, it was remarkable. Lyles had a lot more experience, and he was doing all the talking, and he knows how to manipulate his opponents. And I think that's what got to Kishane somewhat, along with his inexperience. But trust me, he will be back, and he will be on top very, very soon.
One of the controversial moments, well, not moments, one of the controversial features, Michael Dyke, of these Olympic Games, the repechage round, simply translating from French to English as second chance. And it was introduced, I remember very well, at the last Olympics, where rowing is concerned, to give those competitors who competed in the individual rowing events, if it is that the bad weather affected them when they did their run, they were saying, well, the person who went before you in good weather would have obviously have registered a better time than you who went out in bad weather. So guess what? Come for a second chance, a repechage sometime later to see if you get the benefit of good weather, to see if you can make the progression to the next round. That was what it was intended to do. They've added it and added it liberally across these Olympic Games, across various events, the 400 meters, the 200 meters, and so forth. Many coaches hate it. They hate the repechage. Many agents of athletes actually hate it. Some fans say, well, it's good because you can have a mishap and then get a second chance to progress through the rounds. Where do you stand on this repechage round, Michael Dyke?
Honestly, I am not against it. You know, because sometimes something can go wrong just before the start of an event. And, you know, it would cause a very good athlete to to miss out on a qualifying spot. For example, the last Olympics with our own Sherika Jackson.
Yes.
You know, when she was definitely a medal contender, and for some reason, she did not make it to the next round or into the final. And I knew if they had, you know, this sort of situation existing at that time, then she would have won a medal at the last Olympics.
Finally, Michael, would you say overall cup half full or cup half empty where this Paris Olympic Games is concerned?
Boy, it is, you know, it is what it is at the moment because, you know, expectation was very high going in. We still don't give up. But the only thing I am very concerned about is that, and I was saying it to somebody this morning, I really don't want, you know, Dominica and
St. Lucia
to beat us. And if we don't get a goal, they are going to beat us.
Hear you on that. Hear you on that. Well, thank you for your time, Michael. I have to run. This is Lead Story. Very much appreciate your contribution this evening.
No problem. You're welcome.
Good, good. Michael Dyke there, the head coach of Edwin Allen High School for girls. Well, not high school for girls, the girls team at Edwin Allen. More on Lead Story after this.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
The internationally acclaimed On Stage with Winfred Williams.
at a new time, Saturdays at 8 p.m. on CVM TV.
So much more than entertainment.
Hi, I'm Celine Gordon, host of Holy Road.
Hey everybody, what's up? It's your boy John Mark Wigan, host on the show Holy Road. Listen, people need to know what's happening in the churches and in ministry in all of Jamaica. It's an absolute blessing. We're really excited to share this.
Tune in to CVM, see it happen.
Central Expressions, your best source for business, tourism, and entertainment. Tune in to Central Expressions on CVM TV, Sundays at 3 p.m. Repeat Fridays at 9 a.m. Central Expressions is brought to you by the Gulf View Hotel in the heart of Jamaica, from the hearts of Jamaicans. The Orbin Group, Real Essence Media, National PC Bank, Central Expressions, your voice, your culture.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. The government launched the Rebuild Jamaica initiative to provide funds for those worst affected by Hurricane Beryl, which hit the island on July 3. And the Minister of Labour and Social Security, his ministry, will play the central role in helping Jamaicans to get their lives and livelihoods back together, even as there are still several communities and many households still without electricity so far out from Hurricane Beryl. And, you know, those of us who have the utilities and have had them, we take for granted the wonderful state that we are in relative to so many others who've been leading a miserable existence without these basic amenities. But those apart, it's all about getting lives and livelihoods back together. And Pernell Charles Jr. is the Minister of Labour and Social Security. Minister, if we are to add and say, well, 28 days after Beryl hit on July 3, so 28 in July plus the 5 today, 8 and 5, 13, 33 days since the hurricane hit. Are you saying that the Holiness Administration is already writing checks to the people worst affected by Beryl?
Exactly so, and firstly, we want to firstly let the people know that we understand their frustration. We understand that every day, every second is another second of frustration for many who have been displaced since July 3rd. But we have worked assiduously with our partners. And this is not the first phase. Phase 1, I keep on saying, started July 4th, where the rebuilding effort in many communities started with NGOs, community churches and others working with the government to identify from our assessments the most vulnerable. And now we have moved to the phase where we are writing checks. We have written checks to more than 20 persons today who are in the category of totally destroyed. And we have a little under 100 that have already been processed in that category as well. And we are learning as we move through, because this is a pioneering experience. We have never, as a government, as a country, been able to have such a large-scale, comprehensive response. So as we do this, we try to learn, we try to improve. It is our intention to make the verification and validation process as effective and timely as possible. But that has proven to be challenging in that where we have 100, for instance, verified, the TRN validation is coming back with 50%. So we're going to do some tweaking this week to make sure that we can speed up that validation process to get the checks out as fast as possible. Another very important thing is that in addition to the distribution of checks, we are working with our partners to multiply the impact of that money. So where we have the 150,000, we want to work with partners like GEMS, Global Empowerment Mission, where they will bring the material and resources for free, and we use the 150,000 with your approval to pay for the labor. So where you would have gotten a check from us for 150 or 50 or 400, that becomes a multiplier effect in terms of the positive outcome for your home and for your household.
Yes.
So that's a big part of what we did today in terms of highlighting not just the distribution of checks,
yes,
but our partnership with groups like GEMS, like Food for the Poor,
yes,
to make sure that the way we use this money is accountable and as effective as possible to get people into a more resilient space.
Two important things for you to touch up, Minister. Insofar as the various categories or the different categories that you are dealing with in terms of the damage sustained and that assessment, how much accrues to residents in the various categories so that those who are outside of the spectrum of the danger can understand what are the sums that are being given across the areas of damage?
If your home is totally destroyed and you have been assessed by the Ministry of Labor and Social Security and verified, you will get $400,000 in two tranches. First, $200,000, and then based on the assessment, another $200,000. If it is severely damaged, meaning you have significant roof damage, for instance, you're going to get $150,000. And where there's minor damage, you will get $50,000. Now, what we want, we know that perhaps cannot rebuild a home. However, it can help you. So we are making it very clear that is not to rebuild, that is a relief support. However, we have identified partners that can work with us. And with that collaboration, we will be able to help you rebuild your home.
Yeah.
Now, you as a beneficiary have to agree, you have to approve, and you have to want to go that route. And if you do, we're going to identify clusters and bring the GEMS team, bring the other teams in to help put more material and resources and labor. Another big thing, very important, is we are using this experience to provide opportunities for our Heart Trust NSTA the participants. We want them to come in and help to build and be able to use it as a part of the one-day assessment and the training, and also for us to have transfer of skills from those persons that are working with these private stakeholders to our Heart Trust NSTA participants. And we also intend to have the JDF DART team working with us to improve in terms of logistics and execution. It's a big project, and massive initiative.
And the other thing is this. So the funds that are being apportioned based on the scale of damage, where are those funds coming from? Are those loan funds or are those central government funds?
For the first time, your government of Jamaica is able to pay for its recovery. So it is the government of Jamaica that has, in its preparation, provided the support that we are using now for this recovery. Government funds, your funds.
All right, based on the fact that you say 400, 150, and 50 given the scale of damage. So is it that the household or the head of the household that gets that $400,000 check written in their name, is it that disqualifies them for any further assistance to be given by the government, given that there are many households to get, many households to help, and resources finite?
So let me tell you, I would not want to say it disqualifies them because it depends on the situation. However, we are using our conscience as a country, and with wisdom, we want to utilize this money to get to as many persons as possible a benefit that they need. There are some that are more vulnerable than others and may need more and additional support. That's why we have our partners coming in. But in the first phase of this distribution, we are relying on the assessments from our officers, and our intention is to spread this support based on the evidence and the data collected, and then we move into a more incremental, perhaps examination of the situation to see if somebody may need more support from rehabilitation or other support that we have in the ministry.
Another one for you. More, very important, I would suggest. Where will the checks drawn be honored?
Well, the various financial institutions, I imagine, persons will be able to utilize. Also, we are identifying some of the more prominent, I would say, businesses that provide this kind of material. One of them I'll be meeting with tomorrow because they are actually stepping up to provide the material at cost, where they make no profit, so that persons can maximize.
Because that's what I was thinking about. I know that the banks would, of course, play a huge role in honoring these checks drawn. But I was thinking to myself and say, well, the big hardwares, especially the big local hardware, so the big hardware in Junction or in whichever other community was badly affected, if I can go there with my check and say, give me material, honor this check. This check was drawn under the Rebuild Jamaica initiative. I'm wondering if that's a part of the program.
It's something which, I mean, I don't want to speak to the details of that without knowing it myself, but it is something that we can explore. But what we are looking at is in terms of maximizing the benefit of that grant. There are partners like ARC that have approached me and said, listen, we are here, we want to support. We see what's happening. How can we play a part in helping in the rebuild? And a big way that they can do so is by allowing for us to get these beneficiaries the material at cost or at a